and welcome to the June 26, 2023 City Council meeting. Thank you for joining us in this hybrid meeting format. Anyone wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by following the access instructions listed for this meeting on the city's public webcast and meeting materials web page. Tonight's meeting will include a public forum and 3 public hearings. Please note that members of the public who sign up to testify at a public hearing may speak only on the topic that is the subject of the stated hearing. If you wish to speak during the public forum or one of the public hearings, please fill out a request to speak form available on our public webcast and meeting materials webpage if you have not already done so. For those of you who are here in person, printed forms are available at the entrance to the room, and we'll accept request to speak forms until 7:35. These request to speak forms will be used to generate the random order of speakers and correctly enter speakers' names into the public record. For those of you who are joining by phone and wish to testify, but are unable to complete the request to speak form online, press *9 when the forum or hearing is announced, and the last 3 digits of your phone number will be added to the speaker's queue. And then a reminder of our rules of conduct. We do not want any display of flags or signs. We ask you to refrain from loud or disruptive language, noise, or any other conduct that would disrupt our ability to conduct business. And we are seeking to create a safe space for people to speak clearly to council and to be respected. So please keep it quiet. And but you are always able to show silent support by waving your fingers. And so with that, I am going to roll right into the formal land acknowledgement. Since time immemorial, the Kalapuya people have been the indigenous stewards to our region, building dynamic communities, maintaining balance with wildlife, and enacting sustainable land practices. Today's land acknowledgement is a way of resisting the erasure of indigenous histories and of honoring Native communities by inviting truth and reconciliation. Following treaties between 1851 and 1855, Kalapuya people were dispossessed of their indigenous homeland by the United States government and forcibly removed to the Coast Reservation in Western Oregon. As we consider the impacts of colonization, we also acknowledge the strength and resiliency of displaced indigenous people. The city of Eugene is built within the traditional homelands known as Kalapuya Ilihi. Kalapuya descendants are citizens of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Community of Oregon and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians of Oregon. They continue to make contributions in our communities here and across the land. We express our respect for the inherent political sovereignty of all federally recognized tribal nations and indigenous people who live in the state of Oregon and across the nation. In recognition of the upcoming 4th of July, we will open tonight's meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance and reading of the Bill of Rights. And we are honored to be joined by Chris Heppel, the Deputy Chief of Strategic Services for Eugene Springfield Fire. During his 20-year career with the U.S. Air Force in 1987, Chris participated in military, disaster, and humanitarian operations across the globe, specializing in strategic airlift, combat, search and rescue, and isolated personnel recovery. After leaving the service, Chris trained as an EMS and then a firefighter. He served as the interim fire chief for Eugene Springfield Fire for 2.5 years, during which he helped lead the response to the Holiday Farm fire in 2020. Chris is the recipient of the Oregon EMS and Trauma Systems Meritorious Service Award, the Oregon Fire Chiefs Association Unit Citation, and the City of Eugene Leadership Award. Chris will now lead us in the pledge, followed by a reading of the Bill of Rights. Please stand with us for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mayor. Let me get my readers on. Thanks, Mayor. Tonight, I'm also honored to present the Bill of Rights in anticipation of the celebration of our nation's independence on the 4th of July. The Constitution of the United States of America begins with the words, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America." The Constitution was signed on September 17th, 1787. 4 years later, in 1791, the Constitution was further expanded and clarified with its first 10 amendments, known as the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights spells out America's rights in relation to their government. They are as follows. Amendment 1, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Amendment 2, a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Amendment 3, no soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Amendment 4, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Amendment 5, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a precedent or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject to the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled to any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Amendment 6, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and the district wherein the crime shall be committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and the cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Amendment 7, in suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any other court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. Amendment 8, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Amendment 9, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Amendment 10, the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. Thank you, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Chief Hepple. We really appreciate you reading that, and it's a wonderful reminder. So thank you. Thank you for honoring us with that.
Thank you.
The $20 part.
And the $20 does date the penalty. All right, with that, thank you all for joining us in those various important recognitions. The first up is the committee reports and items of interest. Are there counselors? Okay, Counselor Groves, Counselor Keating, anybody else? And the city manager. Oh, and it looks like Counselor Clark. Okay, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. For the city manager, I received a communication today about Wild Iris Ridge, and they're starting to have some nocturnal behaviors up there in the park. Just want to point out it's a sensitive environmental area, and it's there's been problems with fires up there in the past associated with parties, and that's kind of the lead off with prevailing winds behind it that could push it into the ridge line and become a really bad situation. So appreciate any attention we can get. I did notify police and I notified Parks and Open Space, but I don't know what we can do. But in the past, we put up a Guardian camera trailer for a while, and that seemed to curtail behavior. But I know those are in short supply. But whatever we could get in the way of assistance would certainly be appreciated.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Keating.
So you're not talking about bears, Counselor Groves? Not talking about bears? No. Didn't think so.
Well, I did have a visit from a bear last.
I know. I'm going to go there.
Yeah, good.
There's a bear in your neck of the woods. A bear sighting in South Eugene around 40th and Willamette, and a bear sighting in the last 48 hours in the morning at Spencer's Butte. Spencer's Butte. So be aware of the bears, plural. There are bears in our neighborhood. And I'll leave that there. So just some common sense heads up. Mayor, on June 13th, I had the honor of running into Chief Heppel at the Oregon Fallen Firefighter Memorial that was held at the Department of Public Safety Standards and Training, a place Councilor Groves knows well. And it was an honor to be with folks honoring the 3 lives that were lost in Oregon while on duty in this last year. My last committee meeting with the Human Rights Commission was last week, and is Councilor Leach on?
She is. She's online.
It was a very cool opportunity to hand the baton to a committee that does stellar work. And I indicated Councilor Leach that they are in great hands. I believe this is Councilor Leach's first committee assignment. And so I will express to Councilor Leach, as I have HRC committee members, that I am an open book and always available, whether it's via text or phone call at 541-515-3819, or for an in-person. Whenever I do that, I know I regret it the next day. So I'm a phone call, text, or a coffee meeting away. I want to be as accessible and supportive as possible. But congratulations, Councilor Leach, on your appointment. You will find that it is an engaged, exceptional committee to serve with.
Great, thank you. Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 quick things and a question. First of all, I want to say that the mayor was kind enough to join Councilor Ye and I a couple weeks ago here at a Northeast Neighborhood Association meeting, where she was kind enough to answer questions posed by all the neighbors. And I just wanted to say I thought she did a really good job. It was a great opportunity for people in North Eugene to talk with her and ask a lot of stuff. So they were, I think, mostly polite, but they can ask very direct questions. And so it was a good job. A quick question for those on council who are IGR members who may be able to answer this question for me, or if not, then if staff can relay this to Ethan, because I'd love to have an answer, how IGR voted on House Bill 3414. which was part of the governor's plan for seeing us develop 36,000 new houses in the state. And I don't know how Eugene was represented at the state. And if anybody can tell me, that would be interesting. That's my question. Lastly, I just wanted to pass along, I did get an answer from Gabe in planning this last week via email to my question in a recent conversation, which is how many acres of land are inside, excuse me, inside our buildable lands inventory, our residential buildable lands inventory, and also inside the Willamette River Greenway. The answer to that question, 113 acres designed to have homes on them that we've set aside or named as buildable land, residential buildable lands that are inside that as well. The importance of bringing that up is because I think there's a lot of people that would want to or would assume that building inside the Greenway isn't permitted or that we're protecting it somehow. And I just wanted to make sure that we were getting good information to people that in fact 213 acres are set aside for building homes. Thank you. And if anybody can answer that question during their comment, I'd love it. Thanks.
Thank you. And the IGR did not meet and vote on 3414. So we did not take a stand on behalf of the council.
I'd love to hear from Ethan how he represented that.
Okay, I think yes, we have an RGR meeting coming up on July 5th. And I would expect he's presenting a report to council on his wrap up of the legislative session. So you will hear that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
City Manager?
Three things. I wanted to just show some gratitude for Chief Heppel. I know he left, but he also led our COVID response, which was pretty incredible and got us off to such a great start. And I'm forever grateful to him for that. Quick couple of things. We're closing on eWeb this week. So I'm signing papers. Frank and I are both signing tomorrow, closing scheduled for Wednesday. So that's all moving forward and good news. And then I know that county commissioners are meeting tomorrow to get an update from staff on the Eugene Emeralds Stadium project. And that information will help inform our discussion as we come back to talk more about financial condition and revenue. I'll be able to wrap that in and give you the update you were asking for.
Great.
Thanks.
Great, thank you very much. And I'll just suggest on July 4th that before you eat a lot of barbecue and baked beans and potato salad, that you could get up early on July 4th and either run the Butte to Butte or join me in the mayor's fitness walk at 7:30 in the morning. So it's a lot of fun. It's great to be out there with community, everybody wearing red, white, and blue, some in costumes. And I'm a reliable 20-minute walker, so you can beat me easily. And so please join me. It's very fun. All right. With that, we're ready for consent calendar.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the items on consent calendar 1.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Councilor Evans, are you there and able to raise your hand?
Not raise my hand, but I'm saying yes.
You're with us. Thank you. Okay, that passes 8-0. Thank you very much. And with that, we're ready to move into the public forum. This is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the city council on any city-related issues, except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official. And I will turn it over to the staff to get us rolling.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 9 speakers signed up for the public forum and a total of 6 speakers for the other topics this evening, just to know. All right. If you have signed up to speak via Zoom, please take this time to ensure that your screen name in Zoom matches the first and last name you used to sign up to speak. If your screen name does not match, we cannot promote you to a panelist to speak when it is your turn. We will announce 2 speakers' names at a time. If you are providing testimony via Zoom when it is your turn, we will announce your name and promote you to a panelist status, and you can unmute and turn on your camera if you wish. If you are announced as the next speaker and physically in the room, please move to the seat in the front row designated for the next speaker. When it is your turn, you may come to the podium. When you are called to speak, please state your name clearly, and for Eugene residents, your ward or neighborhood, if known, before beginning your comments. You will have 2.5 minutes to speak. If you are watching the meeting, the timer should be visible. A yellow light will come on when you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light indicates the end of the 2.5 minutes. For those who have connected to the meeting via phone and don't have the benefit of seeing the timer, please be aware that your microphone will be muted at the 2.5 minute mark. Please note that screen sharing or displaying information on the screen is not allowed, and any misuse of the platform or violation of the council's code of conduct will result in immediate termination of speaking privilege. If you have documents to give council, please place them in the council inbox basket near the podium. Our first speaker is Faye Rackford, followed by Darren Stone.
I think it's kind of hard to hear with this on. So I am very concerned about, my name is Faye Ratchford and I am in Ward 4. I'm very concerned about the way funds are being divvied up. I have children, I have grandchildren. The libraries are a real priority. And I know there's only one pie. I get it. I have a budget of my own. I've run business before. I understand. But it's a really important issue. And anybody here who has ever used the library knows it's eye-opening, it's invigorating, it's one of the best resources that we have as a community to help our children. I understand from things that I've been reading that there's a lot of concern about children falling behind, whether it's due to COVID or whatever the situations are. And then there's a resource that could help that is being considered to be cut and diced. And I just don't think it's the right way to move. I know you have a hard decision to make. I know that, all that, but I really hope that you consider that you have almost this entire room filled with people who are in support of the library. Thank you.
Thank you, Faye. Our next speaker is Darren Stone. Darren, I do not see you as an attendee in Zoom. I'm going to call our next speaker and call you one more time. After that next speaker, please make sure your name matches if you are in Zoom, and I'm just not seeing you for that issue. Our next speaker is Dana Fleming.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you all for your service to the community. My name is Dana Fleming, and I'm a resident of Ward 2, Councilor Matt Keating's ward. During the day, I am the executive director of the Eugene Public Library Foundation, and our office is located in beautiful downtown library, which is in Ward 1, Councilor Emily Simple's ward. Did you know that this year marks the 20th year of the downtown library, our treasured Eugene landmark? Last week, I attended City Club of Eugene, where I heard City Manager Sarah Maderi speak. I was so happy to hear her mention again that the city planned to make good on a promise made to vacate the 4th floor of the library. She listed city employees currently working on the 4th floor among the first group who would be moving into the new city hall when it was ready, and we are excitedly monitoring the move. In anticipation of the library's acquisition of the 4th floor, our foundation has invested in planning for the conceptualization of the use of that space, inviting the community to dream about what could be in that additional square footage. The first engagement with library patrons in late April yielded more than 720 comments about their vision for the next 20 years. Observations about what they loved about the library included every space is thoughtfully tailored, and I love the wonderful, kind, and helpful staff. When asked what they would add, many listed more space, and we are happy that the city is now able to help us fulfill that wish. I've requested a meeting with the city manager to talk about the potential use of downtown urban renewal funds toward that effort. I look forward to that conversation. We appreciate everyone's ideas and efforts for identifying funding sources that will be needed to ensure that the library continues to be a place of opportunity, discovery, and inspiration for all of Eugene. We're excited to work with you to provide our library with the tools and resources they need to serve the public better as we all embark on the library's next chapter. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Darren Stone, I do not see you in Zoom, so we will be moving on to our next speaker, Mariah Roth, followed by Geraldine Van Pikeren.
Good evening. My name is Mariah Roth, and I have been a 22-year resident of Eugene, 20 years in Ward 8 on Videra Drive. And I'm just here to talk to you about what I see as a public health concern. I live in the Southwest Hills, and we have a problem with speeding up the hill, speeding down the hill. I live closest to Hawkins Lane, which I call Hawkins Highway. And it's bike lane, it's designated bike lane on Hawkins. So it's particularly dangerous, and it's very curvy and windy. And we have protective, and I've had conversations with the folks in, is it traffic engineering or the departments that deal with those kinds of issues. But it's bike lane and it's very windy. And what I observe, because I walk the neighborhood a fair amount, is that cars coming down the hill are going too fast, and they reach Videra Drive, where I live, coming down from Winter Creek. There's a sign that says 15 miles per hour. And also a sign to indicate that deer might be jumping into the road, which they do periodically. I'm particularly concerned about the bikers, because the many of the cars are correcting their speed in the bike lane by swerving into the bike lane around blind curves. And it really looks to me often like an accident waiting to happen. I also observe that on City View, which I walk across frequently and I refer to as City Speedway, and Timberline Turnpike has the same problem, and now they're going to be building more housing up Timberline. So we could just use some help. Signage, better signage, traffic calming. I noticed the Southwest Hills, maybe because they've been there longer and they're more established neighborhoods, but they seem to have more traffic speeding, calming things implemented already. So we could use some assistance. And I myself, when I moved to Eugene, I lived.
Thank you, Mariah. Your time is concluded. Next, we will hear from Geraldine Van Pikeren, followed by Joshua Korn.
Geraldine Van Pikeren, Ward 7. I couldn't bring any of the supporters with me on this city tent safe sites, but I put some pictures and took some pictures of them. And what I'm asking is, I'm actually imploring all of you to really take this seriously. And I rewrote the proposal because of your concerns, Mayor Venus, and I'm asking that you all read it and email me, because I hear all these other important things, but this is super important. These are people on the streets who don't have a place to go and who are being kicked off, and their nervous systems are going crazy. So I'm asking you to stand out this year as councilman and as a mayor that will take this head on, that you'll be the leaders of it, that you'll get the nonprofits to support you versus expecting the nonprofits to do it and then you support them. I'm asking you guys to take this on this year, because Tina Kotek put all that money in the emergency, and yes, you have housing, that's wonderful, but you haven't yet conquered this. And I know you guys can do it because you're really smart. And if you can build stadiums and parks and all that, I know you guys can do it. So this is
an idea. I think it's a smart one. It has a timeline at the end of September that you have two pilot tent sites, and different than the ones in 2020. And they're very simple, 10 to 12 people. And, you know, just start there with a pilot program that works. And if you have to, contract out to CSS or others, great. But if you guys take the lead, if you guys do it, then it'll get done. Because I'm tired of driving by them and seeing them without the basics. And I think you guys would all agree too. So please get back to me on these. I have one for everyone. And I just would like to hear from you. Let's see, anything else? Oh, the last thing is, it's your karma this year, you know, to get this done for the people who are on the streets. And I hope that you accept that as your responsibility to the city and to the people who are the vulnerable population and that can't be here.
Thank you, Geraldine. Your time is concluded. Next, we will hear from Joshua Korn, followed by John Roberts.
I've spoken before with y'all about regulatory capture and in reference to 5G and wireless technology with the FCC. But today I want to take that a little further. You may or may not be aware that regulatory capture has gone really probably to most, if not all, of the three-letter organizations of our higher government: EPA, CDC, FDA. And of course, the topic I want to discuss today is, you know, everyone wants to believe the industry rhetoric that all vaccines are safe and effective. But these documents from the ongoing Pfizer data dump, which they tried to hold back for 75 years, but lost in court, and it's all coming out. These are referenced. They're from dailyclout.io, which is one of the major collators of all these documents. This is a review from a number of professionals. Report 73, Pfizer knew by November 2020 that its mRNA COVID vaccine was neither safe nor effective. Here's what Pfizer's employees and contractors knew and when they knew it. This is like a 35-page document, but I'm obviously only have time to mention a few quotes and then I'll leave it. But it references two documents, cumulative analysis of post-authorization adverse event reports, which is on the safety side of things, and the biological license application for what resulted in the EUA, the emergency use authorization. So this quote, nonetheless, investigators used very small numbers to determine that efficacy was high. Then they ignored the same small numbers to determine safety, which included dismissal of adverse events that occurred within a short time after doses. The methods that were good enough for efficacy were suddenly not good enough for safety.
Thank you, Joshua. Your time is concluded. Next, we will hear from John Roberts, followed by Linda Ague.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is John Roberts. I'm a member of Ward 2, and I'm here again to talk to you about the phase 2 of the renter protections. I watched with interest the council's work session before this public meeting and appreciated the thoughtfulness that the entire council put into what is a very complex area of law, and is an area of law that I practice in my personal employment. I still want to urge the council to revisit its discussion about including non-renewal of fixed term tenancies within the first year as a trigger for relocation assistance. My concern with that is that I think there's a big risk for unintended consequences as that interacts with existing state law. Before this ordinance takes effect, the scenario for a common fixed term tenancy might play out like this. In a, say, August to July fixed term tenancy that you might see commonly in student housing, but in other circumstances as well, a landlord would likely reach out to that tenant in that February or March time period and find out, hey, do you want to lease again for another year? If the tenant doesn't respond under existing law, a landlord to protect their interest would send a notice and say, okay, we didn't hear back from you. We're going to then intend not to renew. Then they make their plan to get another tenant in there and follow up and try and minimize any vacancy while still leaving enough time to clean out the unit if the tenant leaves a mess. If the tenant holds over, because they've given that notice, the landlord can pursue eviction in that holdover scenario. With this ordinance, now that notice includes to the tenant an offer to accept 2 months rent as part of moving out, even if that tenant has already intended not to renew. Because under existing law, tenant does not have to give any notice of their intent to renew. They can plan on moving out at the end of the term without saying a word to the landlord. And what we create here is an invitation for tenants to find themselves being offered a windfall, and I wouldn't fault any tenant who would take it. But I don't think that's what we're trying to accomplish with this renter protection program. And it's not about punishing landlords or creating windfalls for tenants. It's about trying to address the worst practices, not punish the common ones. Therefore, I encourage you to revisit the fixed tenancy piece of this. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, we will hear from Linda Ague, followed by Stefan Strack.
Mayor Vinnis and City Council members, my name is Linda Ague. I live in Ward 4, and I'm on the board of the Friends of the Eugene Public Library. Thank you for providing this time for public comment. After the recent budget committee sessions, I was afraid that I would have to find some clever words to convince you to do something other than making the library a ready target for budget balancing. I now understand that in the incomprehensible world of civic financing, some funding has now been designated to help restore some of the programs that would have been lost because of the budget cuts. I want to say thank you to any of those individuals who understood the need, went to bat for the library, and made that happen. I'm fairly sure that this will not be the last conversation about funding in the city, so I want to be sure that the library is clear what the library means to the city. Any city, our city, make it clear. The degree to which a city supports its library speaks to the degree to which a city values fair and equitable treatment of its citizens. It speaks to the degree that the city values literacy. It speaks to the concern about the value of safe and inspiring spaces for the people that live there. Maybe most importantly, it speaks to the confidence that solutions to future problems can be sought in the most democratic way possible by citizens free to access resources like the library. To demonstrate how important the library is, I would like anyone here who loves the library to raise their hands. I wanted to leave you all with a library earworm, something to stick in your brains, and to know there were far better wordsmiths than myself to provide that. So I went to the library. John Bing and Eleanor Crumblefilm are a library wonk, so you probably don't recognize their names, but they said cutting libraries during a recession is like cutting hospitals during a plague. They also said to ask why we need libraries at all when there is so much information available elsewhere is about as sensible as asking if roadmaps are necessary now that there are so very many roads. But I went to a more recognizable and trusted friend, Walter Cronkite, for the next quote. He said, whatever the cost of our libraries, the price is cheap compared to that of an ignorant nation. But finally, I leave you with the words to put in your ear of Albert Einstein, who in his great wisdom advised that the only thing you absolutely have to know is the location of the library. Thank you for making sure that our library will always be a worthy destination in Eugene.
Thank you, Linda. Next, we will hear from our final speaker for the public forum, Stefan Strack.
So thank you so much for the time, City Council. I really appreciate the opportunity to come down here and get on the public forum. I understand we're checking out for summer break soon, and I'm sure everyone's super excited for your vacations. I hope they're all the best. I really hope that we can budget more time for some people, perhaps those who speak slower or senior citizens, to maybe have a increased allowance for time to speak. And I wish I had more time to talk about what I want to talk about today. The budget, I know there's a lot of budget items on there, but I'll save some of my ideas there for later. I want to talk about the student loan situation and what's happening with the Supreme Court. No matter what happens, there's something interesting so far as opportunity that anyone who has these student loans might have. The credit scoring system is pretty interesting and rather opaque, but so long as the loans are on 0% interest, so I've been told, and this worked for some people I know. So no guarantees, but it's worked for some people. Some people who haven't been making loan payments have the opportunity to make those payments, and anything made is counted as an extra payment. For many scoring systems, people can get a bonus to their credit score by making up to 5 extra payments. Now, it might seem like cheating, but for some people, this has worked to make loan payments as low as $1 per loan. And they've gotten bonuses on their scores for up to 5 payments per month. For example, someone with 10 loans could make 5 payments per loan and get bonus score for basically 50 payments for $50. Might seem like buying credit, but once again, no guarantees. This doesn't work for everybody. It only works for some people who the score works for. It's worth a try though. And for many people, if you know someone who can use a bonus to their credit, this will help the entire city. And this way everyone can pay for maybe things that are more valuable to them. And we can all work together to make our city better. Thank you so much. Stefan Streck, City Council. Hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you, Stefan. Mayor, that was our final speaker for public forum.
Thank you so much, and thank you who took the time to testify today. We appreciate hearing from you and benefit from that. So I have Councilor Groves, then Councilor Zelenka.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to everyone who took the time to testify tonight, or at least be here for the meeting, or those of you watching it on TV. Ms. Roth, I appreciate you bringing up the problem on Hawkins. I live just up the street from you, and I see it and I deal with it every day. I also see it on Timberline. I see it on City View. It's a problem throughout our city, unfortunately. Specific to the Hawkins Lane problem, I did work with traffic enforcement. They did have the team out there a number of days, different times. They did hand out some citations, a lot of warnings for the 2 young people who were doing the street racing. They caught one of them and cited him. So they've been on that. They also were able to produce a camera trailer down on the flats. I've also spoken with the traffic engineers and our traffic engineer about traffic calming. First of all, our budget for traffic calming is piddly. We need to really increase that. But also there's standards for traffic calming. You generally don't put them on hills during inclement weather. You cross them and you almost come to a stop and you lose your traction. So that's one of the reasons for that. In addition, as far as the speed limits on collector streets like that, that's actually regulated by the state. So 25 miles an hour is just what it is. But I do agree with you that we need more public education. We need more, unfortunately, enforcement. And it is a problem because it's safety for even people walking on the sidewalks. Cars frequently jump sidewalks. And it also concerns me with our school age kids that are walking to and from school or biking. So we need everybody just to slow down, just leave a little bit earlier, and you don't have to speed. So just being cognizant of that and raising that awareness and talking about it in your neighborhood groups, I think is a real important thing to do. So thank you very much, and I'll leave it at there.
Thank you for that. Councilor Zelenka.
Yeah, question for the city attorney. But first, thank you all for coming out this evening, and thanks to the library supporters. It is an important and great asset of our city. City Attorney, Mr. Roberts said in his testimony today that tenants could basically keep silent and up to the last day and get relocation assistance of 2 months. I asked that question during the work session, and what I was told was that tenants have to express their intent within 30 days, at least 30 days prior. And so it's not up to the last minute. That's correct?
That is what Lauren read during the work session.
Yeah,
That's
so
correct.
they can't wait to the end and just be silent. They have to actually express intent to not renew or renew.
Yes, and that is an addition. She was reading from your proposed ordinance.
Correct.
So the gentleman may have been speaking specifically to state law, but we can also, coming into your work session on Wednesday, make sure that exactly the language and so everybody's clear what is required. And if there's any tweaks that you want to make either to that language or otherwise based on that.
Good, thank you. That's all I had, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. My mom lives in that neighborhood that off of Hawkins as well, and that Councilor Groves knows well, and that was reported about folks passing on the right in bike lanes. I've seen it on Bailey Hill in that neighborhood. Literally no neighborhood in Eugene is immune to such reckless behavior. So I hear you loud and clear. There likely will be a motion tonight to address a portion of the community on Councilor Ye and Councilor Clark's the boundary of their wards. I look forward to having that conversation. But on the way here tonight, I'm driving northbound on Hilliard, just past the Very Little Theater, and right around Hilliard and 21st or Hilliard and 20th, seemingly a student who's visually impaired with a walker indicating that there's some visual impairment is trying to cross the street from east to west. There are no stop signs or traffic signals or traffic calming from 24th to 18th. Check that, maybe 19th. My facts might be wrong. I might be off a block. Nevertheless, I stop. I'm in it's a one-way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the left lane. And to my right, car after car, truck after truck, as I'm white knuckled, just hoping, praying that that student doesn't walk out into the street. Next to me, finally, a pickup truck stopped and the student got across safely. So thank you for bringing it up and continue to beat that drum, because I don't know anyone on council or in our community who are right-minded who don't want to do the right thing in regards to reaching our vision zero and embracing public safety on our roadways and ensuring that no lives are lost and folks are respecting the roadways appropriately. So thank you for bringing it up.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or concerns from council? All right, I'm not seeing any. So thank you again, everyone who took the time to testify. We really appreciate you, really appreciate hearing from the library supporters. And with that, we will move on to our first public hearing. So I am without my thing.
Mayor, before you get away,
yes,
there's a thought I had. If you would entertain me for 10 more seconds, maybe even 5.
Okay.
Linda Ague should be hired by any politician with a brain to be their speechwriter. Thank you so much for your brilliant words in support of the library.
Thank you. Thank you. That was great.
Thank you, Mayor, for
Yeah.
indulging me.
That was a good 10 seconds. All right. So I will now open a public hearing on the City of Eugene's resolution adopting a supplemental budget for FY 23. And I will turn that over to the city manager to introduce.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I am going to introduce all three of the public hearings individually. The first one's going to be a little bit longer because we haven't had as much time to talk about the supplemental budget. So just hold tight. This public hearing is an opportunity for the council to hear from the public on the final FY 23 supplemental budget for the City of Eugene. The supplemental budget recognizes new revenues and expenses that were not anticipated in the FY 23 budget. A supplemental budget action is requested at this time to increase the legal appropriation level for these items. Adjustments include one-time funding requests from the general fund and non-general funds. In addition to recognizing revenue and making administrative adjustments, there are two items I'd like to mention related to the general fund. Consistent with past practice, this supplemental budget includes the use of reserve for revenue shortfall for personnel costs related to contract and market adjustments. As staff developed the 2023-25 proposed budget last winter, estimates for these supplemental budget actions were included as part of the FY 23 budget projections in the general fund. FY 23 budget projections, along with planned department underspending, were incorporated into the general fund forecast and support the 2023 through 2025 general fund reserve for revenue shortfall of 10 million, which is the minimum level of reserves for the biennium. A lot of words. Second item is the reappropriation of some existing funds for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund contribution. Last December, during supplemental budget, I recommended not using marginal beginning working capital for the $500,000 Affordable Housing Trust contribution, given the funds were not needed for immediate expenditure and we had our Moody's rating coming up. This allowed for additional stabilization for our general fund reserves in the short term. I did, however, commit to making this contribution as part of a future budget action. This action repurposes ARPA funds originally allocated to unhoused services. These funds are available due to underspending this year and will provide one-time funding assistance for affordable housing projects, which will also be part of our revenue discussion. Details on items included in the supplemental budget are in the AIS, and we have city staff available for questions.
Thank you very much. And with that, I open the public hearing and turn it over to Cherish to share the list of speakers.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 3 speakers this evening. If you have signed up to speak via Zoom, please take this time to ensure that your screen name in Zoom includes your last name and matches the name you used to sign up to speak. I will announce 2 speakers' names at a time. If you are providing testimony via Zoom and you are the next speaker, I will promote you to panelist status. And when it is your turn to speak, you can unmute and turn on your camera if you wish. If you are announced as the next speaker and physically in the room, please move to the seat in the front row designated for the next speaker. When it is your turn, you may come to the podium. When you are called to speak, please state your name clearly and for Eugene residents, your ward or neighborhood if known before beginning your comments. You will have 3 minutes to speak. If you are watching the meeting, the timer should be visible. A yellow light will come on when you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light indicates the end of the 3 minutes. For those who have connected to the meeting via phone and don't have the benefit of seeing the timer, please be aware that your microphone will be muted at the 3-minute mark. Please note that screen sharing or displaying information on the screen is not allowed, and any misuse of the platform or violation of the council's code of conduct will result in immediate termination of speaking privilege. If you have documents to give council, please place them in the council inbox basket near the podium. Our first speaker will be Renee Buchanan, followed by Karen Knudsen.
Council, thanks for hearing us tonight. I'm Renee Buchanan. I'm a member of Mike Clark's ward, Ward 5, and I am a member of the Eugene Public Library Foundation Board and am representing the board. This budget cycle has been very challenging, not just for Eugene, but nearly every city in Oregon is having a problem with balancing its budget. I appreciate that you have listened to the many library supporters who've reached out to you and who testified during the budget committee hearings that the $4 million cut to the library's personnel, materials, and supplies will create a hardship for the most vulnerable in our community and will be a strain on the current staff. We are already seeing these cuts erode the ability to retain our professional, skilled library staff. We are already seeing longer wait times and a reduction in the ability to obtain new materials. City Manager Mederi has recommended one-time funds of a combined $80,000 for each year added to the library's budget for youth services in the summer supplemental budget. I urge you to support that recommendation. I wish there were more funds to support the library, and I urge that in any future increases to the budget, you remember these cuts and work to restore the budget. We will continue to support the library because the library supports us and the community. Regardless of age, race, gender identity, or housing status, the library is for everyone. It is a designated shelter from the smoke, the cold, and the heat. Being this accessible comes at a cost. You are well aware of the challenges that the library faces in supporting all of our community members. Reducing the staffing levels of the library is short-sighted. Again, thank you for the work you've done on this already and the support you all expressed during the budget committee hearings. Please support the supplemental budget recommendation and continue to work to identify funding for the library, which provides essential foundational support for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Next, we will hear from Karen, followed by John Borofsky.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for your service and your many hours of work just here today. My name is Karin Knutson, Ward 3, and I'm an architect and the founding director of Better Housing Together, which is a local nonprofit that works collaboratively to increase housing affordability, diversity, and supply in Lane County. I've also been a volunteer member of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund's Advisory Committee since that fund was first established. I'm testifying tonight in support of the reappropriation of existing funds that would be used to support the Affordable Housing Trust Fund as outlined in the recommended supplemental budget resolution. We briefly discussed the trust fund during the Q&A at the City Club of Eugene last Friday and how effective this tool has been in supporting new affordable housing, rental assistance, and foreclosure prevention. In just the past few years, $2.2 million in trust fund support has leveraged $45 million to fund the construction of 178 new affordable homes in Eugene and to protect more than 100 households from foreclosure or the loss of rented housing. The trust fund is an incredibly important tool to help us address our housing crisis. It is more flexible than other state or federal funding tools, and it has helped us to accomplish new, creative, and needed housing, which I'm so delighted to say is exactly what was hoped for when this council first created the trust fund just a couple of years ago. The recommended $500,000 contribution to the trust fund speaks to a continued commitment to affordable housing and to meeting our local housing crisis with real solutions. So thank you for including the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in the supplemental budget recommendation and for funding this important housing tool.
Thank you, Corinne. Next, we will hear from our final speaker on this topic, John Borofsky.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, City Manager. I'm here to talk about the supplemental budget that's in front of you today. And I'm going back to when the city manager presented her budget. She had a word diagram with a bunch of things that she got from staff. And one of those word bubbles was promises kept. That's going to be kind of a theme throughout my testimony this evening. The promise to fund the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, it was a promise that was made by some of the counselors that are here today. Some of the counselors that are new weren't a part of that discussion, but it's very important, as Karin just mentioned, all the good work that was done. Initially, that was part of the construction excise tax goes to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and a commitment was made by council to match that with $500,000 of general fund money. As Karin alluded to, this is on no strings attached to this money, so it can be used in a bunch of ways that some funds for affordable housing cannot be used. Going forward, there's going to be discussions about the budget, the shortfalls, and what we have. I just hope that when the budget committee and you guys meet to go over the goals and policies that are going to be amended and looked at in the fall or the spring of next year with the budget committee, that you keep in mind the very important part of our housing crisis that this small piece. I mean, $500,000 is a lot of money and can do a lot. But as Karen alluded to, it leveraged way more than what it was worth. And so in the past, it was part of the marginal beginning working capital. How it gets funded in the future, I hope is continued. We have a commitment from you guys that this is a tool that you felt was important. The community felt it was important. The builders felt it was important when they signed on to give a percentage of their money to help get this type of funding going. So promise is kept. Keep it in mind, and thank you for including it in the supplemental budget.
Thank you, John. Mayor, that was our final speaker for this topic.
Thank you. Now close the public hearing. Are there comments, questions from counselors based on what you've heard? All right. With that, I turn to the council president.
Thank you, Mayor. Move to adopt a resolution adopting a supplemental budget, making appropriations for the city of Eugene for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022 and ending June 30, 2023.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And with that, we're ready to move on to the second public hearing of the night. We'll now open public hearing on resolutions regarding City of Eugene 2023-2024 biennial budget adoption. And again, turn to the city manager to introduce this.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just saying, I need to be able to read as good as Chris Heppel. This public hearing is an opportunity for the council to hear from the public on the 2023 through 2025 biennial budget for the city of Eugene as recommended by the Budget Committee. As part of the discussion at the Budget Committee, I stated I would bring a proposal to restore some library funding on a one-time basis in the 2023 through 2025 biennium. To that end, I'm proposing to add $160,000 in the biennium for prevention and youth-related library programming and materials funded on a one-time basis with a community safety payroll tax underspending. This addition is included in the adopting budget resolution for council action. Council is asked to take action tonight on the budget to allow for necessary legal appropriations. City staff are available for questions.
Okay, thank you. And with that, Church, you want to share a list of speakers?
Our speaker on this topic this evening is John Borofsky. And John, just as a reminder, you've got 3 minutes.
All right. Thank you. John Borofsky, Ward 3. I want to thank you all and the Budget Committee for your hard work in presenting the budget that you're getting ready to pass. I know it was a very difficult year to struggle with. There's a lot of challenges still to come. And I want to get back to promises kept. That's my theme for tonight. You were able to fill some gaps this year, specifically with the fire issue that was before us. You working with staff were able to come up with a solution to help fund the fire station. The solution that you came up to was a realignment of some community safety dollars. And I just want to make it clear that the community safety initiative is a very important part of what we're moving forward with in this community. And it's not a fund that can just be dipped into whenever there is a need or a budget hole. And I'm going to just read part of that code that was adopted by this city council. Section 3, the purpose of the payroll tax is to raise additional revenue to be able to increase community safety services beyond what the city was able to fund in FY18. Therefore, the council will use, in accordance with Oregon budget law, the payroll tax revenue to supplement and not replace funding used in 2018 for community safety services. Now, I've been assured that this wasn't replacing funding that wasn't there in 2018, but just realized in this hard budget times coming before you that this is a promise kept, and this community safety initiative is going to need to be voted on in a few years. And we need to make sure that we fulfill the promises to the people who are paying this tax. And that's the employees and the employers of this community. So that's the promises kept. I hope you will pass this budget, but keep that in mind that the Community Safety Initiative was put in there for a purpose, and we need to achieve that purpose to help make our community safer for all of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. I think with that, I'll close that public hearing. Are there comments or questions from the? Yes,
Thank you,
Councilor
Mayor.
Clark.
Yeah, I appreciate what you said, John, there, and I agree with promises made, promises kept. In this case of the money that was reallocated in the CSI funding, that was money that was already going to go to fire for a marginally beneficial resource when we were eliminating a critical resource. And so that's how that came about in my mind. Yeah, but I hear you. So thank you for your words on that. But I just wanted to clarify for people, more for people listening, that was how we ended up where we did. And there was some other funding put in there as well. That fire was able to rework some things and find more efficiencies, just like the library did. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And any other questions, comments? Okay, with that, I think we're ready for you, Council President, to put a first motion on.
Thank you, Mayor. First motion on this issue, move to approve a resolution electing to receive state revenue sharing funds pursuant to section 221.770 of Oregon Revised Statutes.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you. That passes unanimously. Okay, next one.
Thank you, Mayor. Move to approve a resolution certifying that the city of Eugene provides the municipal services required by Oregon Revised Statutes, section 221.760.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you. That passes unanimously. And next. You're next.
That's you.
That would be me. Move to approve a resolution adopting the budget with the addition of the city manager's proposal to add $160,000 to the Community Safety Payroll Tax Fund for prevention and youth-related programming and materials, and making appropriations for the city of Eugene for the biennium beginning July 1, 2023 and ending June 30, 2025.
Any questions or comments? Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. I have a motion to make, and for an amendment, if I get a second, I'll speak to it. I move to amend the 23 to 25 budget to move $50,000 from the road fund to the Transportation Capital Project Fund to provide funding for a traffic calming project on Holly Avenue between Gillum and North Kenzie Roads.
So I just have a process problem. That is not related to you're not adding that to this community safety initiative motion that Councilor Clark just put on the table.
It's a separate motion.
It's a separate motion. So can we hold on yours, Councilor Clark, until we finish?
I'm sorry, I thought we were at the,
right?
at the main budget item. I apologize.
Wait a second. We're on the, so right now we're on the move to approve a resolution adopting the budget with the addition. Oh, okay.
That is the main budget.
You're right.
Yes,
I'm
this
sorry. I'm getting tangled up. I apologize.
I did too, Mayor. I'm sorry.
Go for it. Go for it.
Thank you. I made that motion. If I get a second, I'll speak to it.
Second.
Thank you. This is a problem, much like the young lady mentioned earlier in public forum, except in North Eugene, 1 block south of Crescent Avenue, which is just about the busiest street in North Eugene other than Coburg. It's very much exactly like what was done several years ago in Councilor Ye's ward on Jepson Acres there, where you had one road and one road only that was a neighborhood street that connected two major collectors, and people would use it as a shortcut to the other connectors and speed through neighborhoods at 50, 60 miles an hour. The traffic calming that was put in there was very much like this particular project on Holly Avenue, where it's a partially unimproved street that doesn't have curbs and gutters, and it doesn't have sidewalks, and 3 schools every day feed into kids walking home along this road without sidewalks. And the neighbors have been working on this for about 2 years now, working with public safety, getting enforcement ratcheted up and putting trailers out there. They've worked with Public Works forever. And I got the funding source here from Matt Rodriguez, who I've been talking with. And it's important to say that this didn't make this year's project list, but it's towards the top of those that the Public Works keeps record of. And when the mayor came out to Northeast Neighbors the other day, she will have probably remembered the 15 or 20 neighbors that were in there to complain about this particular item that they've been working on for years and can't get a resolution. I'm concerned that because we have neighbors who stand out in their front lawns during the day yelling at cars as they go by, and interactions from cars drivers communicating with neighbors, I feel that we may have a conflict situation here at some point that would be really unfortunate. So what they're looking for on this partially unimproved street for 5 blocks down the road is, 5 to 8 traffic calming humps that'll slow people down and calm everybody down and bring a good deal more safety to this part of the neighborhood. I know that there are an awful lot of folks who want this, but these folks have been dealing with this for years, and I hope you'll support my motion.
Okay, any other comments or questions on the motion? So this is yes, Councilor Clark, Keating, sorry.
Yeah, Councilor Clark on the mind. We've all become Councilor Clark at some point tonight, Mayor. Councilor Clark, as indicated in my comments to folks who provided public comment, I'm going to support this. That's not the only place in town where there's a situation like you described. Neighbors in South Eugene, think of Long's Market in that area, where High Alley meets 28th, I believe. Folks will fly down High Street to avoid. I'm calling out Matt Rodriguez right now because I have your ear. I've got a little time to just indicate that I recognize there are places in all of our communities where this is a problem. And so what I would request is maybe an update on hotspots that we're addressing, traffic calming, just a check-in with council about where we're at. I mentioned the Hilliard piece earlier, but whether it's High Street, Hilliard, or Holly Avenue, by and large, if there's an opportunity to do some good and it makes sense to, as Matt, as you have indicated through Councilor Clark's observations, that there's a funding source there to do it, to make it happen, then I see no reason to say no tonight.
Okay, Councilor Zelenka and then Councilor Gross.
Yeah, Matt, you might want to come up. We put in traffic calming years ago and increased it slightly over the years. But there is my understanding is there's a very long queue of requested projects for traffic calming, and I guess, and it's very underfunded. Do you know how many there are in the queue and how long that queue it will take to clear, given the funding that we do?
Yeah, so Councilor Zelenka, I believe the queue is around 18 streets right now. I don't know exactly how long it'll take to clear, but on average, I'd say it's between 50 and 100,000 a street, depending on how long it is. And our yearly traffic calming budget is $100,000. Now, the one funding source we do have coming up is the $15 million That's, 5 million for walking, 3 million for safety, 3 million biking. There's a general pot of 2 million and then 2 million for street trees that went along with the bond measure that was passed last year. We're currently doing engagement around that funding as part of Move Eugene. That will have the opportunity to probably accelerate a lot of traffic calming projects in the city, but the first project probably won't be built until 2025. So there's a little bit of a gap.
Sure.
Before we have
improvements
on the ground.
Do you know, is this project on that list of 18 and where is it?
Holly?
Yeah.
It's on the list. I don't know exactly where it is on the list. It's
not number one.
It's not number one because we've been programming this out for years. So there are streets that we have basically right now programmed through construction in 2024. So Holly is not in the list of that normal funding source that would have been completed by then.
By the end of 24. My understanding is that when we put together the road fund, it had it was a very tight constraints on how the money can be spent, meaning it had very specific list of projects to be done and it cannot be changed. Is this money part of that road bond money, or is it just road fund money?
It's just road fund. Yeah, the projects in the bond, all of the projects in that 15 million have not been set yet. That's the list we're going to bring back to council this fall and you'll actually approve. So this is just road fund, which
is just regular road fund.
Yeah.
Right, which has its own constraints. Maybe Councilor Ye and Councilor Clark can speak to why this project should jump up to the front of the queue over the rest of the requests that have been put in. Safety, what are the?
I'd be happy to. I don't want to cut off Councilor Ye there if she wants to say something.
You can go ahead. I can, if you miss anything.
Sure. Thank you. My concern with this is that, and the reason for jumping it up is the energy behind the several hundred neighbors engaged in this. They have been dealing with this problem for years. I used to live just off Crescent Street, and when you try to get on Crescent Street, 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, it can sometimes take you half an hour just to get on the street, turning from a side street, much less if you're trying to go, the hour it'll take you to get, half a mile down the street, down Crescent itself. Holly is a shortcut, and my chief concern is the students. This particular road is one that feeds from 3 different schools where students walk down their home after school. And people are reaching speeds of 50 and 60 miles an hour down this neighborhood street that is, a block south of Crescent and a shortcut. And we've had some extremely scary situations and parents who, for good cause, are really upset about it and trying to get some help. And so it's to answer your question directly, it's a combination of how long they've been having to deal with this and the current state of the potential conflict. And this is the easiest, least expensive way, without all the personnel we keep sending out there from Public Works and from Public Safety, to calm people down who are driving down this road and create some safety.
Anything to add, Jennifer?
I think he covered it pretty well. I mean, there seems to be an escalation. And this, I think, is a good way to describe it, of how these two populations are interacting with each other. And it sounds, I don't live in this particular area, so but it from all accounts, the conflict is only getting worse. And because of the nature of the street, because it doesn't have sidewalks, the interactions are right there, right? There's no separation at all for these students, and these cars that have chosen, they're not going to slow down. That seems to be, after years of trying different things, and these particular drivers have decided this is their speeding area, and passive ways are not going to stop that. And it's very honestly very scary.
So calming to create some calming.
Calming to create some, I mean, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Gross.
Thank you, Mayor. My years as a firefighter, I've seen so many tragedies from motor vehicle accidents, vehicles into pedestrians. And you don't have to do that type of work, either law enforcement or fire, for very long until you realize how really important safety on our streets are. I certainly have quite a few streets in my ward, as you heard tonight, where we have speeding that's just out of control and very dangerous, and even street racing at night, which really scares me, where they're tying up both lanes. But I'm also for making any street that we can safer. I would certainly hope the city manager is hearing all of us say that this is a priority. We need to figure out how to make things safer. I mean, if an outcome is predictable, it's preventable. And I think a lot of this is preventable. Specifically to Holly Street. And it's been years since I've been on there. I don't know if they have sidewalks now, but they didn't have sidewalks. And my history there, besides a number just responses, my kids went to daycare on Holly Street. And to put that in perspective from a timeline, my youngest just graduated from college. So this is something that's been going on for years. I saw speeding at the time. I actually, when we were looking at daycares, I mentioned that to my wife. I said, I don't like how fast the traffic drives along here, and there's not a good pedestrian space. So I will be supporting this. And basically, I will be encouraging and supporting in all of our wards to make them safer for our entire community. And I think it's something that we should get behind. And I know this year is not the year with the deficits that we're looking at, but this is something I think we need to have a longer term strategy and figure out a plan for getting speeding, traffic, and reckless driving under control. Again, I mentioned the traffic unit earlier tonight. I really appreciate the work that they were doing in my specific ward. It has had an effect, but there's a shelf life there. It's perishable. And if that's not reinforced, it'll be back to the way it was without any type of physical safety infrastructure that helps slow people down. Thank you.
All right, great. Yes, Councilor Ye.
I really appreciate everyone's comments tonight. I wanted to make sure that we all understand that this is not fixing the problem, right? This is improving the situation, but we still have bicyclists, walkers, and cars all using the same street together. And it's just, it's not sustainable long-term for this particular area. So this is great. And it's fantastic if we're going to be able to do this, but it's not, we're not like, okay, we've done it now, we're good. That this area and many others, like we've talked about, it's just it's vision zero. Let's say that.
Right.
If only we had a revenue committee that we were having.
If only.
Generate funds.
If only.
For the roads.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, so, yes, Councilor Evans.
I think that this would be a good topic for a work session and maybe bring this back. And I'll put it out there for some time in the fall. Basically because I have the same issues as the other councilors have, including a really nasty street racing problem that I have on several streets in my ward. And I think that we need to start looking at this not only from the Vision Zero perspective of no fatalities and total safety within the framework of bicycles and automobiles, but I also think we're going to need to revisit this as far as scooters are concerned, because our scooter situation is starting to get out of hand. And I think that we need to have a comprehensive work session at some point to talk about traffic safety overall in a broader context, and then have staff bring back some information and some data that we can be able to digest, and maybe there are some things that we can do from a policy perspective to make our streets safer and more viable for all people who use it, whether you're 2 years old or 92 years old. We need to have safe streets.
Okay, thank you. All right, so what's on the table now is a motion to amend All in favor of amending the motion, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that passes unanimously. So now we're back to the main motion as amended. And all in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's excellent. Thank you. And we skipped one, so we have to go back.
I was just gonna go back.
So
Thank you, Mayor. Your trusty council president consistently another night missed something. So I would like to make a motion that I inadvertently overlooked. Move to approve a resolution determining levying and categorizing the annual ad valorem property tax levy for the city of Eugene for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023 and ending June 30, 2024.
Second.
okay, any questions, comments? All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that passes. Thank you very much for that. And I will now close this city council meeting and open the meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency. And we'll now actually gavel in a public hearing on resolutions regarding the Urban Renewal Agency 2023-2025 biennial budget adoption, and turn to the agency director to introduce it.
Thank you, Mayor. This public hearing is an opportunity for the agency board to hear from the public on the 2023 through 2025 biennial budget for the Urban Renewal Agency as recommended by the Budget Committee. The agency is asked to take action tonight on the budget to allow for necessary legal appropriations. City staff are available for questions.
Okay, and Cherish, I guess I'll turn to you. Do we have a list of speakers?
We have 2 speakers for this hearing, and I'll need just a moment to promote Todd from attendee to panelist. And then just as a reminder, you will have 3 minutes to speak, and the timer will become yellow when you have 15 seconds to complete your comments, and the red light indicates the end of the 3 minutes. All right. Todd, we see you. You can go ahead and unmute and turn on your camera if you wish.
Good evening. Am I on? Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Sorry to make your evening even longer. I really admire everyone's stamina for these long meetings. But with great trepidation, I am against the approval of the $37 million appropriation for the Urban Renewal Program. And a basic premise of urban renewal is that the Urban Renewal District is blighted. Downtown Eugene is not blighted. The riverbank's not blighted. The downtown is thriving. As evidence, I would offer the spike map provided by Joe Minicozzi in his 2019 report to the city. This is a map that shows green spikes where the revenue is positive, and it shows massively positive property tax revenue in the downtown and the near west side. Another evidence is the report of Denny Broad to the City Club, also in 2019, displaying many dozens of new and renovated buildings downtown. So in my view, the city should declare victory and begin phasing out this program for urban renewal of the downtown and riverbank developments. The program is an anachronism from previous generations. So anyway, I would recommend the program be phased out in an orderly manner, completing all of its existing commitments and plans, but no further. In other words, you would only be approving the appropriations required for the existing commitments. And really the blight that is affecting our city is of human character. And like urban blight, it's the result of underinvestment in the social capital, the actual needs of our human population. There are thousands of citizens who are in crisis and need. We are taking care of many thousands of people. This is good. But we have many difficult cases that require millions of dollars of staffing for mental health services, addiction recovery services, and facilities and caseworkers. Of course, all citizens have to be assured some sort of shelter or housing. It's very short-sighted having police agencies confront them every day on the streets, telling them that they are not welcome and that they have to move, confiscating their belongings and so forth. This perpetuates a cycle of stress and alienation. People need to remember that the Urban Renewal Program is a direct carve-out from the general fund. Although there isn't rather arcane tax incremental funding and so on, it is a direct carve-out from the general fund. And we already have an $8.3 million budget shortfall, even with inadequate funding of human services. At every city council meeting, people are asking for solutions to housing, homelessness, and public safety. Literally no one is asking you to spend this $37 million on new building. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Next, we will hear from our final speaker, John Borofsky.
Thank you, John Borofsky, Ward 3. I encourage you to approve the Urban Renewal Agency's budget. There's a couple of things, though, that I would like to point out that stick out in my mind every time that the Urban Renewal Agency is brought up. That is the expenditures that go to planning and development. The Downtown Urban Renewal Agency has $794,000 going to planning and development in this one. The Riverfront has about $728,000 going to planning and development. And I understand that this is valuable money and being spent in a wise way. The reason that I bring that up is because with your decision to move forward with the Downtown Urban Renewal Agency, and your June 12th work session, there was some tables in your packet on the projected revenue and expenditures. Now, these are just ballpark numbers that were put out there. But the commitment was that the council wanted the majority of this money to be spent on housing. And I think that that's laudable. So housing development fees was 8.3 million over the lifespan of this $50 million that you guys approved. Housing land acquisition was 8.3 million. Physical improvements, 6.7. Emerging projects, 10 million. The line that gives me pause is project delivery and administration. $16.3 million. 1/3 of the $50 million is being set aside for project delivery and administration. To me, that's equivalent to kind of what has been happening with the money that's going to planning and development. I understand that it takes a lot of money and a lot of staff time to implement these large projects that the city is looking for. But this is almost $800,000 every year until FY 43. I hope that in the future, we can keep an eye on that and make sure that we are doing our best to rein in the costs of project delivery and administration, especially if a lot of this is front loaded and we put a lot of the projects early on in the queue. There's $900,000 going for project delivery in FY 43 when there's only $99,000 being spent. So just you guys keep your eyes on this, because 1/3 of the money going to delivery is a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Mayor, that was our final speaker.
Okay, thank you. With that, I close the public hearing. I'll turn to councilors to have any comments on what they've heard. Councilor Gross.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to address the comments that the downtown is not blighted. We just had a work session on our urban renewal district, and I forgot the number of buildings that were identified by staff, but it was quite a few. And at least when I walk downtown, I see shuttered and graffitied buildings, quite a few. And I actually think this is very important that we invest in our downtown. Just because an area produces tax dollars doesn't mean that it doesn't have problems. And right now we do have businesses moving out of downtown. And that is a lot because of the conditions. And it's the broken window syndrome over and over again. When you see a building that's defaced and damaged, it actually encourages more defacing and damaging of other buildings. And so, yes, there are behavior problems associated with this. Yes, we do have problems with some of the people that are in and are operating around our downtown, but it also ties back to urban renewal dollars are not just about building new buildings. It's also about building infrastructure that promotes safety, whether that's lighting. There's a number of things that can be done on this. And I actually think this is important. This is the heart of our city. I think the fact that it is the area that produces the most tax revenue that helps support the entire city makes it really important that we keep the investments up and continue to invest in our future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add a little bit more to my friend Councilor Grove's statement and concur with him and strongly disagree with Mr. Boyle's comments. Our downtown is in fact blighted badly. Prior to going into the mortgage business 6 years ago, I had my own ad agency for 25 years. And for 7 of those years, I had an office in the Tiffany building and spent quite a lot of time downtown. And prior to that, my office was in a little 2-story building owned at the time by Pacific Continental Bank that's still on the corner of 6th and Olive. Got a large staircase that goes up the front of it to the units upstairs. When you drive by that office on 6th Street, on the entrance to our community, there's almost no speck of the front of that building that isn't absolutely covered in graffiti. I mean, it makes me sick to my stomach every time I go by it because my office was right there, and there's the window and it's horrible. It's awful. And I agree entirely with the idea of investing in our downtown in this way. And I agree as well that housing will be a major part of having our downtown's vibrancy come back. But at the same time, I had a similar effect as John Borofsky did when looking at the administrative cost, 16 million. That kind of shook me a little when I saw it too. And I would just say that I know that in years past, a lot of those folks who have had a problem with the idea of urban renewal, one of their major complaints about it was what they would call and have called a slush fund for the city or for a planning department. And I don't look at it that way, but I think it's wise for us to consider that that's a major objection of theirs to the program. And we may want to reconsider how we spend that allocated and planned 50 million. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. City Manager?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
When it's all done, if you would like me to address any of
Yes,
that, I'm happy
that'd be
to.
great. Yeah, sorry, Councilor Zelenka.
Yeah, I just wanted to address the spike graph that Mr. Boyle talked about. I think he's misinterpreting what it says. The spike graph, if I understand it right, is the amount of dollars invested per square foot. And it necessarily would be higher in the downtown area, which is denser and higher. And so there's more dollars and more property taxes per square foot in that area than any place else in the city, which is much less dense. It doesn't have really anything to do with whether or not it's blighted or economically thriving or not. It's really just about how much investment there is.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? City Manager.
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment about the project delivery administrative costs, because what we did in this plan is pretty consistent with others, which is you include a bucket of what is eligible. So this is sort of the eligible expenses. And just a reminder, this is not, this is some city staff costs, but it's also legal costs, design costs, anything it takes for us to deliver a project. And This is going to be a pretty unique one as we try to develop a lot of housing in the downtown. So that's an eligibility. It doesn't mean all those dollars need to be spent, and we can certainly keep track year over year over year of what's actually being spent out of there. That'll be part of our reporting and something we keep track of, and matters to me too, because as you know, with our current situation, there are no slush funds. It's all being really kind of dialed in.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, with that, I think we're ready for a motion.
Just one, right?
Just one.
All right. Move to approve resolution of the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Eugene, adopting the budget and making appropriations for the biennium beginning July 1, 2023 and ending June 30, 2025.
Second.
Okay, actually, there are two.
There's two.
And you did skip one.
Yeah, jeez.
But we'll get to that. Since this one's on the table, if it gets.
That was a test.
No. We can still do this one. We can do them in reverse order. Okay. So did you second that yet?
I did second it.
Okay.
That just means the resolution numbers will change, right?
No.
No, it's just the order.
Why don't we withdraw
It's fine.
back up and I'll do it.
No, it's fine.
No, it's fine.
It's on the table. It's seconded, and I think people are ready to vote. So all in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you very much. And now just slide up one and sorry, I could have.
Move to approve a resolution of the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Eugene declaring the amount of tax to be certified for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023 and ending June 30, 2024.
Second.
Any comments, questions? All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that passes unanimously. Thank you all. I now close the meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency and reconvene the June 26, 2023 meeting of the Eugene City Council for our final action, and ordinance adopting hazardous substance user fees. And I don't, we don't need an explanation on this. I think you can, unless there are questions.
Question.
You have a question, Councilor?
Yeah, in the background piece, I found it curious that council's approved these fees since 1998, and the fee is capped as per ORS 453.370 subsection 2, subsection B. Indicates that the city cannot adopt a fee schedule that imposes a fee of more than $2,000 for any single facility in a calendar year. I would submit that $2,000 needs at least an extra zero. But we're capped because of Oregon State statute. My interest is, since we've been adopting the Eugene Toxics Rights to Know program fees since 1998, how, if ever, has ORS changed? Is it adjusted, or is there a movement to adjust it?
So I can speak to that a little bit. There's a lot of history to the Eugene Toxics Right to Know program, and that statutory provision came about after a considerable amount of litigation within the courts. And we have a number of memos over the years that kind of outline the history, and I don't have them memorized, so I can't kind of give you the linear of that, but it is something that I can provide to you, because there has that. To answer your question, that when that was established in the legislature, it hasn't changed since then. That was the number. So to answer that question, but kind of the path on how it got there and the case law that led to that, I certainly can provide that history too.
I'd be very interested in exploring that. Thank you, Catherine. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. So your final motion of the night.
Just one.
Just one. Sorry. This time I really mean it.
Move to adopt an ordinance adopting hazardous substance user fees as provided in attachment 8 to this AIS.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that passes unanimously. Thank you all very, very much, and we are adjourned.